Hello, I'm Marletha, and on behalf of my research partner Armando, welcome to Snowden Chronicles. On this channel, we aren't just looking at names and dates on a page. We're digging deep into our own family roots, breathing life into our ancestors, and piecing together the puzzle of who we are. But we're also showing you how to do it, from decoding centuries-old court records and brick wall census data to capturing the priceless oral histories of our elders before they're lost. We're breaking down the exact investigative tools and strategies you need to uncover your own history. Because history isn't just something found in textbooks, it's in your bloodline. Subscribe to Snowden Chronicles, grab your magnifying glasses, and let's start hunting for the past together. In my previous video, The Cost of Freedom, Story of William Morris, I briefly discussed his mother, my great-great-great-grandmother Prudence Morris, and the lack of documentation about her life. To better understand Prudence, we must examine the world she lived in. For a woman in pre-Civil War America, that world was shaped by one profoundly complex reality. When we think of motherhood, we often picture something intimate and universal. A hand resting on a cradle, a whispered prayer over a sleeping child, a love rooted in care, hope, and the fierce need to protect. But in pre-Civil War America, motherhood was never only personal. For many women, it was also defined by law, race, property, and power. The meaning of giving birth could change completely depending on the color of a woman's skin and the legal status of her body. For some mothers, a child represents legacy and continuality. For others, that same child entered a world of courtrooms, forced labor, and fragile freedom. And for millions of enslaved women, childbirth meant bringing a human being into a system that claimed ownership over both mother and child. Today, we're looking at the painful complexity of motherhood in pre-Civil War America and how the law reached into the most intimate human bond and rewrote it. Let's begin by looking at the baseline expectation of the era. Imagine a Caucasian woman living in the antebellum North or South. She's married to a white man with a stable job, perhaps a merchant, a lawyer, or a successful farmer. For this woman, life largely goes as expected. Her role in society is heavily dictated by the era's the cult of true womanhood, which views women as the moral guardians of their home. Her primary duty is to raise upstanding, law-abiding citizens. When she gives birth, the timeline of her children's life is relatively predictable. If she has a son, he grows up to pick a career, a trade, or inherit the family business. If she has a daughter, she's either married off to secure another stable household, or she enters a respectful employment suited for her station. Now, this is an oversimplification. Life always has hardships, illness, and economic downturns. But legally and socially, her motherhood is protected. Her children are legally recognized. Her marriage is valid, and her family unit is secure under the law. But what happens when we shift just one variable in this equation? What happened if a white woman broke the deepest society taboo of the antebellum era and had a child with a black man? On paper, because the woman was white and free, her mixed race child was legally guaranteed freedom. In America, the status of the child followed the status of the mother. But society and the legal system found a brutal way to penalize this. Laws banned interracial marriages. Because the parents could not legally marry, the courts declared the child illegitimate, regardless of whether the African American father was a freeborn man or enslaved. An illegitimate child with no legal recognized father became a ward of the state. Unless the white mother came from a family of significant wealth and means to shield her, the local courts would step in. The punishment? The child would be stripped away from the mother and forced into a lengthy state-mandated indentured servitude until they reached adulthood. It was a system designed to punish the mother, enforce racial boundaries, and extract free labor from a child who was technically born free. For African American women, motherhood was anything but simple. Every single pregnancy was weighed against a complex web of oppressive laws. As we mentioned, the foundational law of American slavery was the child follows the condition of the mother. If a black woman was free, her child was born free. If she was married to a free black man, the law recognized their children as legitimate. A free black mother could guarantee her child's basic freedom from the auction block. But that freedom was incredibly fragile. As we've discussed in previous videos, free African Americans in slave states were subject to incredibly harsh, hostile laws designed to pressure them into leaving or force them into submission. And the legal traps deepened if a free black woman married an enslaved man. Because an enslaved person could not legally contract a marriage, the law viewed their union as non-existent. Her children were declared illegitimate. As we broke down in our video, the law that made our ancestor a blacksmith, this illegitimacy meant the state could step in, bind the children out as indentured servants, and control their labor until they became of age. Freedom did not mean safety. But the heaviest heartbreak of this era was borne by the enslaved woman. If a woman was enslaved, her child was born enslaved. It did not matter if the husband was a free man. Under the law, enslaved people were regarded strictly as property, not human beings. This meant an enslaved father, even a free one, had absolutely no legal rights to his own children. He could not protect them. He could not stop them from being sold away by the owner. The system was so twisted that it was not uncommon for free black Americans to purchase their own wives and children. While it sounds jarring, today historical records show this was often the only way to keep a family safe from being seized by white creditors or sold off to distant plantations. For the average enslaved couple, the threat of separation hung over their heads like a guillotine. A slave's owner financial debt, a death in the owner's family, or simple greed could mean a mother watching her children taken away, never to be seen again. Perhaps the most horrific manifestation of this system occurred when an enslaved woman had a child by a white man, very often the slave owner himself. Because the law dictated that that child followed the condition of the mother, that child was born a slave, even if the owner was the biological father. In antebellum America, slave owners could assault enslaved women with absolute legal impunity. There was no punishment. There was no requirement for the father to pay for the upkeep of his offspring, nor did he ever have to acknowledge them. Instead, the system rewarded the perpetrator. The birth of his own biological child simply provided the slave owner with another piece of human resource, new laborer to work his fields or to be sold for profit. Motherhood was weaponized to build the wealth of the oppressor through the bodies of their own children. When we look back at the history of the pre-Civil War era, we often focus on the politics, the battles, and the economic data. But the true gravity of the system is best understood through the lens of motherhood. For some, a child was a legacy. For others, a child was a legal liability. And for millions, a child was a commodity. By understanding how the law manipulated the most sacred human bond, we gain a clear picture of the profound resilience of the families who survived it. Thank you for watching. If you want to dive deeper into how these laws shaped the trades and the lives of our ancestors, make sure to check out our previous video, The Law That Made Our Ancestor a Blacksmith, linked right here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. God bless, and see you in the next video.